Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for those who have provided me with some feedback regarding having two languages in one YouTube channel. So let me welcome you now to this new channel called All About Space, which will only provide English-speaking videos. So please continue your support in subscribing to this new dedicated channel, All About Space, and you will find the address just above the screen. Thank you very much for your support. This week, we are looking at Dream Chaser spaceship from Sierra Space, AXIOM-3 crew back on terra-ferma, new pictures of Io, a starbase update, and cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko breaks records, and thermal protection system both at SpaceX and Rocket Lab will be discussed. And finally, we'll end this episode with this week's world rocket launches. Sierra Space has been showing off its spaceship Dream Chaser Tenacity, a cargo version of the reusable spacecraft, to be sent to space with the second ULA Vulcan rocket to demonstrate its capability to dock on the ISS. Today, the spacecraft was shown to the journalists prior to its vibration test campaign at NASA's Glenn Research Center. Sierra Space has been working for many years on this project and demonstrated tenacity, hence why the spacecraft has been named so. Well done to Sierra Space, and I look forward to covering this major event with you in the coming months. AXIOM-3 crew has now left the ISS and returned to Earth after over 2 weeks of experiments. Due to weather, the crew had to stay 4 days longer and has even taken the opportunity to do more experiments. So time is money up there. But let us have a quick summary of what they have done at the ISS. So Swedish ESA astronaut Marcus Vandt has worked on nearly 20 experiments alone for over 80 hours in the last 2 weeks in the European Columbus Lab to boost European research and novel technologies. As you could see in this picture, he's playing up with his new toy, a 360-degree view camera. He's like a teenager, isn't he? A set of over 30 experiments carried out by AXIOM-3 crew includes how spaceflight affects the human body, the mechanism behind certain diseases, and how stem cells research can help lead to the development of novel therapeutics, such as study the tumor organoid in microgravity, evaluate changes in astronauts' blood enzymes, disease markers in microgravity study to help new therapeutics for treating neurodegenerative diseases on Earth, and many more. The June spacecraft was sent in mid-2011 to study Jupiter. Since then, his mission has been extended to that of some of Jupiter's moons, Ganymede, Europa, and Io. This week, the probe has taken its last close flyby pictures of Io, where you could see the many volcanoes on Io. The probe will then crash into Jupiter's atmosphere next year to avoid contamination of his moons. Why? Well, because his moons are more scientifically worthy to visit with potential signs of life compared to Jupiter's inhospitable environments. After 13 years of travels to a very distant planet of our solar system, I thought it was appropriate to show you that single picture of Io. In Starbase this week, we could see now 3 levels of stringers being installed on the Starship number 26. Now, this Starship is so far the only left without fins. Clearly, SpaceX is not giving up with it and still works on it. Now, we do not know what is the master plan, but it is good to see that SpaceX is having a hand on many pies. So instead of speculating on the purpose of this particular starship, I would invite the viewers to hold on a little longer, and it will all become clear in the month ahead. The Star Factory is continuing its expansion, with further foundations being done to erect the next sets of factory structures. The launch mount is still being updated, and Starship number 28, the one to take off this month, has had one of his Raptor and one of his Vacuum Raptor engines taken off. And finally, Starship number 28 thermal protection tiles were being repaired. You may remember me mentioning that several Starship Mechazilla tower sections were assembled at Roberts Road in Cape Canaveral. However, SpaceX has decided to shift that second tower from Florida to Starbase. We have seen one section already shipped to Starbase a few weeks back, and now, thanks to our colleagues from NSF, 4 more sections are being shifted to Kennedy's Harbor for a barge to transport them to Starbase, leaving this week, I presume, and arriving at Starbase in the coming weeks. SpaceX has shared with us the pictures of 4 super heavy boosters, booster number 10 through booster number 13, in one of their high bays. And SpaceX is making huge progress based on testing prototypes and incrementing their design to quickly reach maturity, a very different approach compared to the likes of ULA, Ariane Group, or Blue Origin. Cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko breaks record for most time spent in space. Oleg Kononenko, at the age of 59, has been into space for a total amount of nearly 2.5 years. He accumulated such a record time over his 5 trips to the ISS since 2008, and actually is still there. Of course, it's not the end of this record, because he will stay at the ISS until the 5th of June or thereabout, bringing his record to over 1,000 days, returning to Earth via his Soyuz capsule currently docked at the ISS. He added, "I am proud of all my achievements, but I am more proud that the record for the total duration of human stay in space is still held by a Russian cosmonaut." But as a father, he added, "It is only upon returning home that the realization comes that for hundreds of days in my absence, the children have been growing up without a papa. No one will return this time to me." So well done, Oleg, to bring such a dedication and sacrifice to space. This week, Rocket Lab has been testing his thermal protection system for his Neutron. If you remember, this is the larger rocket that they want to use to compete with Falcon 9, being fully reusable. They have therefore tested their thermal protection tiles on a Electron rocket, the one that they currently use, and the picture shows quite a good behavior of that particular tile, unaffected, which is the very black bit in the center of the screen. So talking about thermal protection system, or TPS, here are new footage provided by NASA from his WB-57 tracking aircraft of the very old IFT-2, if you remember end of last year, from Boca Chica, where you could clearly see the amount of TPS tiles departed from the Starship number 25 structure. So SpaceX has quite some homework to do here. February the 2nd, China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation launched a Long March 2C from its Xichang Satellite Launch Center in China. On board were 11 Geely Constellation Group 2 satellites to be used for Earth observation, Internet of Things experiments, and the verification of satellite positioning technologies. February the 3rd, the China Rocket Company has successfully launched its third Smart Dragon 3 rocket from its sea launch platform out of the South China Sea with 9 satellites on board, including NextSat 1 for the Egyptian Space Agency. China Rocket Corporation is affiliated to the China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology. February 8th, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 from its Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. On board was the PACE satellite designed and built by NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. Now, PACE here stands for Plankton, Aerosol, Cloud, Ocean Ecosystem, well, pretty much telling us everything we need to know in this 1,694 kilogram or 3,734 pounds Earth observation satellite. Of course, for that it needs light, therefore was destined for sun-synchronous orbit. Because the orbit is low and the satellite weight is light, the booster on his fourth flight had plenty of fuel to return to site in landing zone number 1, if you must know. On the same day, Russian Space Forces sent a Soyuz 21V with one of his usual Cosmos payloads out of his Plesetsk Cosmodrome in Russia. Now, as it is a military payload, we do not know much more than that. February 9th, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 with 22 Starlink satellites V2 Mini on board to his typical circular low Earth orbit for his mission Group 713 out of the Space Launch Complex 4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Now, the booster has flown for his 14th time and landed on the drone ship Of Course I Still Love You in the Pacific Ocean. After this eventful episode of space technologies, space flights, and space discoveries, I would like to leave you with perhaps a boring picture of the Moon and Earth, but hear me out and you will see it is not as boring as you may think. We can see the Moon from Earth and still be amazed by it. We can see the Earth from the many satellites orbiting around, but we do not have many pictures of both, taken from behind the Moon like that. Moreover, this picture was taken by a £4 billion hardware called the Orion spacecraft of NASA's Artemis 1 mission, sent over a year ago, a spacecraft which will bring a permanent presence to the Moon through a Moon orbital station called the Lunar Gateway. Now, Artemis 2, next launch in NASA's Artemis series, is currently scheduled to take people around the Moon in 2025, whilst Artemis 3 is planned to return humans to the lunar surface in late 2026. Now, thank you very much for joining me, Christophe Paget, to your latest episode of this brand new English-speaking channel all about space. Now, have a great week and see you next week. Thank you. Goodbye, folks.